Ethan had always been told that he had untapped potential. His friends, family, and even his colleagues would remind him that he was capable of achieving great things. But despite the encouragement, Ethan felt stuck. He had tried countless times to reach for something bigger, to push beyond his limits, but it always seemed just out of reach. The harder he tried, the more frustrated he became. Nothing ever seemed to go according to plan. He felt like there was something inside him, a fire waiting to be lit. But no matter how hard he searched, he couldn't find a spark. Ethan was tired of hearing about his potential. He wanted to see it for himself, to finally unlock the power that everyone had been talking about. But how? What was the secret to unlocking his full potential? As he sat in his room, looking out the window, a thought crossed his mind. Asterisk. Maybe I've been looking in all the wrong places. Days passed, and Ethan's frustration only grew. He continued to work hard to push himself, but it felt like he was running on a treadmill, getting nowhere. The more he tried to force things, the more things seemed to fall apart. His career wasn't progressing as he had hoped. His personal life felt stagnant, and even his health was beginning to suffer from the stress. It felt like everything he touched was slipping through his fingers. Every plan he made ended in disappointment, and the weight of failure started to crush him. One evening, after a particularly difficult day at work, Ethan found himself sitting in his car, staring at the city lights through the windshield. Asterisk. Why does it seem like I'm always struggling? He thought. Asterisk. What am I doing wrong? The pressure to succeed was unbearable, and as much as he wanted to find a way out, he couldn't see a clear path forward. He was stuck in a cycle of frustration, unable to break free. The feeling of being trapped was suffocating. One afternoon, while walking through the park, Ethan came across an elderly man sitting on a bench. The man's calm demeanor and the way he observed the world around him struck Ethan. He sat down beside him, feeling an odd sense of peace emanating from the old man. After a few minutes of silence, the elderly man turned to Ethan and said, "You look like someone who's carrying the weight of the world. When you try to push too hard, life pushes back." Ethan was taken aback. "How do you know?" he asked. The old man smiled and responded, "I've been where you are. You're chasing after something, but you're chasing it in the wrong way." Ethan, feeling vulnerable, asked, "What should I do?" The old man looked at him thoughtfully and said, "Stop focusing on the outcome and start focusing on the process. When you understand the asterisk, what asterisk will follow naturally." Ethan was stunned. He had spent so much time focused on what he wanted to achieve, but never considered how he was going to get there. If you're ready to stop chasing success in the wrong way and start understanding the process, hit asterisk, subscribe asterisk, tap the asterisk bell icon asterisk, and stay with us for more life-changing insights. The next day, the old man invited Ethan to join him for a walk through the park. As they strolled along the path, the man reached down and picked up a small rock. "This," the man said, "is a perfect metaphor for life." He handed the rock to Ethan. At first, it looks rough and unappealing, doesn't it? But if you take the time to study it, to turn it in your hands, you'll start to see the beauty beneath the surface. Ethan hesitated, but then took the rock. He noticed its jagged edges, the marks on its surface, and the way it felt in his palm. "The key to unlocking your full potential," the old man continued, "is just like this rock. You have to be willing to look beyond the surface. The process of growth, of achieving anything worthwhile, is not always smooth or easy. But it's through those rough edges and the moments of struggle that you'll find your true strength." Ethan understood. The rock was a reminder that growth wasn't instantaneous. It took time, patience, and the willingness to see things through, even when it seemed difficult. Over the next few weeks, Ethan began applying the old man's advice to his life. He stopped focusing so much on the outcome and started appreciating the journey. Every morning, he would take a few moments to sit with the rock, feeling its texture and reflecting on its lessons. The rough edges didn't scare him anymore. Instead, they reminded him that challenges were part of the growth process. Slowly but surely, Ethan began to notice a shift in his mindset. He was no longer frustrated with his lack of progress, but rather, he was excited to continue moving forward, taking each step with patience and purpose. He understood that true growth came from embracing the process. The small actions, the daily commitments, and the belief that every moment was an opportunity to move closer to his full potential. The rock was no longer just a symbol. It was a constant reminder that everything worth achieving takes time and effort, but the results would come naturally when he trusted the process. One day, while walking through the park, Ethan noticed a group of people running past him, focused on their destination. They were sprinting with no regard for their surroundings, their eyes set on the finish line. Ethan smiled as he watched them. He couldn't help but think how different his approach had become. The old man's teachings had changed his perspective. Rather than running blindly toward a goal, he was learning to move at his own pace, to enjoy the process, and to let things unfold naturally. As he sat on a bench and held a stone, Ethan thought about how he had been like those runners before. He had been rushing, always looking ahead, never taking the time to appreciate the present. But now, he realized that true achievement wasn't about reaching the finish line as quickly as possible. It was about the journey itself. And just like the stone, which was shaped slowly over time, his own growth would come naturally if he stayed committed to the process. As weeks went by, Ethan noticed a profound shift in his approach to life. The stone that he had once carried as a symbol of struggle now felt like a tool for growth. Every day, he would pause to reflect on the journey he was on, acknowledging how far he had come. He wasn't as focused on the destination anymore. Instead, he realized that the small steps he took, the lessons learned from his challenges, and the moments of quiet reflection were what truly mattered. He was no longer overwhelmed by the weight of his dreams. He understood that his potential wasn't something he had to force out of himself. It was already inside him, waiting to be unlocked, just like the stone. He had learned that by accepting the process, he could make real, lasting progress. True success wasn't about rushing to the end. It was about staying committed to the journey and trusting that each step would lead him exactly where he needed to be. Ethan stood at the edge of the park, the stone still gently held in his hand. He looked around, taking in the beauty of the world with fresh eyes. For the first time, he felt at peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because he had learned to embrace the process, the journey. He realized that his full potential had always been within him. But it wasn't until he allowed himself to slow down and trust the process that he truly began to grow. The stone had become more than just a symbol. It was a reminder that true success wasn't about chasing after the next big thing. It was about being present in the moment and allowing things to unfold naturally. As Ethan took one final breath, he asked himself, what if the only thing standing between you and your success is your need to rush the process? What if the secret to unlocking your full potential is simply trusting the journey, no matter how slow it seems? What if your obsession with speed is the very thing that's slowing you down?